What's
Uniform Exchange. What is this?
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Uniform Exchange, where I change the name every week and don't tell the guys that are part of the podcast so they can get their real reactions and find out whether or not that is the new name of this podcast. But I'll tell you guys, Uniform Exchange, I thought to myself, well, I haven't told you the layout of today, but the plan today is to have time segments because we tend to you guys are very verbose. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Long-winded.
So.
I'm very
Absolutely.
succinct.
Totally.
In the way I communicate. But
You're just
we
best.
interrupt. What?
Wow. We tend to run a little long sometimes. So I figure let's break each one of these down into 5 to 7 minute segments and a timed conversation, if those times are the same, would make a uniform exchange.
Wow.
Snap.
Wow.
And you know how at the end of a game, if LeBron is playing against KD, there's a good chance that they're going to do a uniform exchange.
We call it. Us millennials, we call it a jersey swap. But I'll let you get away with it.
I was looking for the pun.
I think we know what next week's name's of the show.
Jersey Swap is next week. We'll see if there's a podcast named Jersey Swap. I'd like it.
We'll see if there's a podcast next week. Period.
That's really the bigger question.
It's true. This is very true. And I really thought Uniform Exchange would show up in the bottom right corner of each one of these. And I am very not good at predicting what's going to show up on screen here.
Did you put it in a black font?
I tested it and everything, and it worked great before we went live.
But you showed us last week you don't know how to save.
I showed you a lot of things last week, and not knowing how to save things is
post-production.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing. But
I don't know what they call this style of production. It's like mid-production. It happens when you are producing the show as it's running. It's a new thing we're trying. So just bear with us.
Live production, I think, is what that's called. Yes. All right. Well, guys, Uniform Exchange, where we cover the topics and the news from the past week within the business of sports. Hopefully, we cover it in a way that maybe you don't see it elsewhere. There's often a bit of pop culture in what we do, and really whatever we find interesting or what might be interesting happening in the world. There are no topics that are off limits in this podcast. I think we've discovered that. I'm Michael Myers. What was that? I'm Michael Myers, the CEO of The Sports Marketer, as well as the owner of the finest luxury gifting service on the planet in the entire world of corporate gifting, not just in sports and music, but also in corporate America, Birdie Box. I'm joined, as always, by the owner, CEO, and editor-in-chief of Team Marketing Report, Chris Hartweg, as well as the CEO and really officially the big sports marketer, the big sports guy, Josh Kyles. I added my name into your title there, big sports guy.
You gave a little preview of our
the big sports marketing merger. Guy report.
Yeah, there you go.
we got a tri merger coming
or
up.
Maybe the big sports marketer report guys.
It's possible. Well, how are you guys, by the way? How are you? Anything exciting happened this week? Anything exciting happened today?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Well,
Josh, I know you got some stuff going on.
I do have a little. I did kind of buy a house this week.
Wait, what?
Josh bought a house. Big sports guy's got a house.
Yeah.
In San Diego?
No, I'm going to be moving up to Hollywood.
Oh, my man's living in L.A.
Going
Big
back
time.
to L.A. Very excited.
Does it have a couch like the one you have here and a wall right behind you? Will we maintain the look and feel?
We're going to have a couple different places we'll be coming to you live from. But I think one of the main places is going to be the new rooftop deck. We're very excited about that.
Get out of here.
Very nice.
Chris, I can send you some pictures. Anyone that is interested.
Chris, when you have a successful podcast that pulls in the millions and millions that we have, you get to buy houses in Los Angeles with rooftop decks.
Yes.
Not just Los Angeles.
Hollywood.
Wait for it.
Yeah. I honestly do feel a little bit like I just won a game show or something, and like, you're going to Hollywood, or but I'm excited. It's a very exciting time.
That was aggressive. But that's congratulations. This is your first home that you've purchased?
Yes, that will be my first.
That is exciting. That is exciting. It's a big day for the big sports guy. Congratulations.
So, we'll see. Which I think the main reason why I really wanted it was so I could have some better backgrounds for the podcast.
You bought it for the podcast background?
Yeah, it was really an investment for that because there were some
great.
Really bad backgrounds here. If anybody's watching the video stream, it's not the most exciting, but hopefully our words are better than my background.
Well, that's awesome. We'll get started in a second. I just came back from the doctor, as you guys know.
Yes.
Kind of a big deal. Went to the doctor. I found out that it's so funny that you say that. I found out today as I was walking out. By the way, let me just say my doctor is the best doctor, and I've never had a doctor this good. This guy is unbelievable. As far as general practitioners in the city of Chicago, this guy is untouchable. He is the best.
Is this our newest sponsor?
Yes. Northwestern Medical Center. No, but as I was leaving, he said, "Oh, step back in. I do have one more thing to talk to you about," which you never want to hear your doctor say, "Step back in," so I can shut the door. By the way, am I violating my own HIPAA by talking about this? Can you violate your own HIPAA?
No,
I don't think so. I don't think you can violate
maybe if like the doctor told you some secrets that like he didn't
about other people. Yeah, no, he didn't.
Well, that would be
So we did step back in, and he said, "Hey, does anybody in your family have any colon issues?" And I said, "Actually, yeah." And kind of gave him the responses to who and how and why, and he said, "Well, then you're due. It's time. We got to get you in for a booty check, whatever they call that." What's the official term for the booty check?
Colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy. There we go.
I like booty check.
He didn't use the word booty check either, but that's all I heard. I was like, "Doc, am I going to like it?" And he's like, "Probably." No, he said you're going to be out. They put you out, evidently.
Not completely, but you don't remember any of it.
Oh, they just make you
No, Chris, they don't put you completely out. Everyone else
Chris is like, "Can you keep me a little bit awake? You can paralyze me if you want. Just keep me to where I can feel everything."
Oh, interesting.
So yes, viewing audience, I will at some point soon be getting my first colonoscopy.
Congratulations!
Very exciting
man.
stuff.
I'm sure that's what everybody tuned in to hear. So
well, now they know.
I can't wait for what we should just live stream the 12 hours of you drinking
barium mixture.
Crap.
Yeah.
We're really doing well. We're really doing good on our goal of keeping this under an hour today, guys.
I had 7 minutes. I had 7 minutes for this set aside. I was going to
talk about your colonoscopy.
For 7 minutes. Yeah. And I think we got it in just under the gun. We've been on for 8 minutes and 24 seconds. This is perfect. Next topic as I move over, and let's talk about a few things. We've already talked a little bit about the NFL. Oh, look, as you shrink things, the name starts to show up. I knew it was going to show up at some point. All right. NFL draft. I was just struck by this. First round, there were 5 quarterbacks. Well, what do you what position? I'm going to flip it around. How many running backs do you think were taken in the first round without looking?
None.
I set you up for that? None? What do you think, Chris? Based on the way the question was asked?
I was trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Should have asked in the first place.
One, since I can't take 0.
Yeah,
One.
it's actually 2. But when you think back to Heisman trophies and all that stuff, it's either running backs, quarterbacks, for the most part, dominate that every year. But when it comes to the draft, in my mind, I don't usually, we talked about this last week, I'm not a big draft follower. I don't wear the jersey and grow the mustache out and get 25 pounds overweight and look extremely unathletic so that I can go yell and scream based on who they draft for my team in the 8th round.
Right, you do that every day. You
at home. Yeah. I just don't do it in public. Right. I don't go to the city where they're doing it. But in my mind, I'm thinking, running backs are going to be, every year, quarterbacks, running backs. It is absolutely not the case. I was struck. 5 quarterbacks, 5 wide receivers, 5 offensive linemen, 5 defensive backs, and 5 linebackers. So there's 25. 4 D-line. So that's 29. Josh called out the tight end that was going to get taken, and there was 1 tight end. I think he got taken 3rd or 4th overall.
Yeah.
And then 2 running backs. I was just surprised because if you ask a kid what position do you want to play in youth football or high school, they're going to tell you, if they don't say quarterback, they're going to say running back. And it's just not that many running backs getting drafted.
Well, since you didn't include this as a possible topic and didn't allow me to prepare,
What are you talking about? NFL draft?
Yeah.
This
Draft,
sneak up on you,
first
did it?
round
The draft
position.
sneak up on you? Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
I would be curious to see last few years.
I didn't look
Because
at
I have a
comparisons
feeling
either.
I think it's consistent. There might be
this
more
was
running
just-
backs taken this year than in the last couple of years.
Somebody will look that up as we're talking about something else, and we'll come back. But I was
not gonna do it.
struck, and I don't know that it's not that different.
Well,
Because
this
when
was
you
a,
look, there were
this
still
was a
running backs
particularly quarterback heavy year.
Yeah, but
There's
there's
usually
been other
not
quarterback
five guys.
heavy years.
I think
quarterbacks
there's been
didn't
a
take the place of
trend-
running back.
I think there's been a trend over the last handful of years of running backs going later in the draft because you've seen so many teams get great value later in the draft with running backs.
100% what I saw here. That's
And-
what this was. I looked ahead. It was 2 in the first round, 1 in the second round, 1 in the third round, couple in the fourth round. It was the 6th round where 4 running backs was taken. 4 running backs were taken in the 7th round, similar. So you're right. I think they take a chance later in the rounds.
I think the reason why it's probably because there's no other position in football where you have more wear and tear than as a running back, especially a lot of these top guys in college. They're coming in. They've already had a ton of carries throughout their time in college, and it's just the facts of the wear and tear. And usually most running backs after their first deal, which is usually 4 to 5 years, depending on if a team exercises that option, they're going to kind of either hit a plateau or drop down based off of injuries. We've seen it with a ton of different players. So I think that's kind of what you saw last week.
Yeah, and I also think that it's a position that is now at the NFL level a shared position.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of I'm the feature back and I get every carry. Most successful teams, and there are some, there's no question there's some amazing running backs out there, but there are more teams going with shared backfields, which fantasy owners love, than ever, without question. So I think that plays in. I was just surprised. I was going to bring it up in passing. I don't know if you guys heard Trevor Lawrence went first overall.
Yes, and he sold
that was
twice
the
as
shocker
many.
everyone was talking
He
about.
sold twice as many jerseys on Fanatics than anyone else had ever done before on draft day, which
There
he
you
broke the record of Joey Burrow.
There you go.
So Jacksonville
Doubled, but
fans
I
showed
did
out.
not see that. He doubled.
Joe
and
Burrow.
did pretty well. So
Yeah.
that's wow.
Yeah, interesting.
Jacksonville fans showed out.
Well, we also had the Kentucky Derby last week. We're not going to talk about this either, but the only thing I want to say about the Kentucky Derby is that I did see a photo of Tom Brady, and he looks like the Caucasian version of Jim Carrey's mask. In this, I don't know if you saw this photo. He looks like what Skeletor would look like if he donned a suit. Like, eat a cheeseburger, man. I mean, that dude he's looking thin. He's looking thin. Quarterback ready, football ready. All right. Next topic. Staying ahead of the pace here, guys. I don't know about you.
Keep it moving.
Florida delayed. You guys have been following the name and likeness. This was just an announcement that came out this week that I think there were 5 states that put into some form of legislation that in July they were going to allow, there was 5 that were going to allow athletes to get paid. I think it went from 5 to 4. Could have gone from 4 to 3.
Well,
I think it
there's
went from
4
5
that
to
have,
4.
there's actually 4 that have passed the legislation.
Yeah.
Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, New Mexico, and there's 3 more that have targeted July 1st that the governor still has not signed. So it's actually could be 7, as many as 7.
Well, as many as
July
6 because Florida just passed an amendment.
Nope.
No,
That
they
moved it to 22.
switched it back.
They pushed it back.
They rescinded it.
Okay, so this was in the last day or two.
last couple days. Yeah,
No, I think it was
ago,
over the weekend. I think
So then it was
within 48
proposed,
hours.
and it still had to get through like the House and something else, and it didn't. It didn't make it through all the different places it had to make it through.
Well, no, it made it all the way through.
It did.
And
Okay.
The governor was apparently poised to sign it, but basically they buried in other legislation. They just buried that as part of something else, in just one line, 66 pages in, or something crazy like that.
They don't do this in politics. I don't know what you're talking
Oh
about.
no, right? Never. And it was just that It was a group had decided that out of an abundance of caution, the most overused pandemic phrase now, an abundance of caution, we're shutting things down. They're going to push it back, and they just buried it. That it's just now switched to 22, and it's interesting because DeSantis has been actually really pushing for this to get to happen,
right?
And so there was such an uproar that within 48 hours. So I think that came through like late in the night on the 29th, and so then Saturday, whatever that is, was they flipped it. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we did talk a little bit about this last week too, but I mean, okay, so now you can make money, but I mean, what are the guardrails? I mean, that's the thing that makes this tricky. But I mean, what's to say? We talked about, you've got Florida got a big booster. It's going to, hey kid, I'll give you.
Yeah, not only
grand.
that, but just because what are the actual rules within what's allowing this to happen? The state says you can do it, so you can, but the NCAA still hasn't said you can do it, so you can't. So until the NCAA says you can do it, then you can. But what if you're in one of the other 43 states that says you can't?
Yeah, well, there's something in the Florida legislation that, if I read this right, it's that if the NCAA has an issue with this, the schools that allow NIL would then have to withdraw from the NCAA.
Yeah, and I don't think that'd be good for the NCAA, obviously, especially
right.
So basically, we've got this thing. Everything's under control, is what you're saying. Everything's under control. This is an orderly transition, and everything's under control.
I think the senator in Florida who wrote to delay the amendment basically cited that, well, the current NCAA rules don't allow it, so we're going to give it another year to try to work out the rules with the NCAA.
What's up, Snoop?
Hey Snoop. So that's basically was their excuse, and and Snoop is very disrespectful at the podcast.
That's the first time he's ever barked on the podcast. Come on, Snoop. What you got going, bud?
Oh.
Snoop.
Snoop is not happy with the NCAA.
Well, I don't think anybody is.
NIL. Yeah, no, but basically he wanted a written guarantee. The senator from Florida wanted a written guarantee that the NCAA wouldn't punish any athletes or schools in Florida that would conflict with these new NIL rules. So they were able to get enough of an assurance to take back that year delay.
Well, the NCAA, one thing we can all rest assured is that the NCAA knows exactly what they're doing and they have this under control. We can sleep easy at night knowing that this is fully under control. Right. And they have got this.
This is our weekly segment of
just like Josh has Snoop under control.
Yeah, this is Josh. This is the weekly segment where we offend all sorts of people we could eventually partner with. That's right.
That's what I was trying to get at.
I don't care. You guys, it's all on me. You're the guests on my podcast. That's what we're gonna say. You're guests on my podcast. What could you have said? This was all me.
What would you be?
Well, how would you be? All right. Alone time. What is that? I spend my life. Coming into this week, there were still 4 teams that had not yet allowed a fan to watch a game played by their home franchise. Do you know those 4 teams? Anyone? Can you name them?
Yes.
At the beginning of the week?
At the beginning of this week. Who are they?
Or are you talking?
Oh my God, Chris, what's your guess?
NBA?
Bulls, Blackhawks.
No, all franchises. There were 4 of the 4 major sports.
Bulls, Blackhawks, the PTB, and
Portland Trailblazers.
What's the 4th one? Why am I blanking on it?
It's also 3 letters. It's the only one, matter of fact, it's still going to be this way. Who's left?
I thought PTB was the only one that was staying.
No, PTB. Well, I'll give you the update. So the last was Oklahoma City Sun.
That's
under OKC. Yeah. So this week, and they were all not allowing fans for different reasons. In Chicago, it was because of the city. The governor and the city of Chicago. So they said you can now have people. So now the Blackhawks, who, by the way, I just think this is the funniest shit. Pardon my language. Funniest thing. Sorry, shit. I don't need to pardon my language. This is our show. The
No,
funny
it's your
shit-
show. It is your show. It's,
my
my
shit
show.
That's right.
We're just
Mark,
guests.
Mr.
my
Mr.
show.
Emmert.
It's
I just want to say this is Meyer's show.
It's my show. I can say shit if I want to. The funniest shit is that the Blackhawks can now have fans, 25%. You know how many home games they have left?
2.
1.
Oh, it's going to be just down for the last
It's
one.
just 1. Maybe because it goes into effect on May 7th. I think it's 1. Maybe it's 2. I think it's
You're
1.
talking. You're talking the Trailblazers with that one.
No, that's the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh,
The
the Blackhawks.
Chicago Bulls have 4 games left. So the Bulls and the Blackhawks are going to do 25% capacity. The Trailblazers are doing 10% capacity for their last 4 games, but unlike the Bulls, they will have more games because they're going to make the playoffs. It appears they're currently in 7th place. The Bulls
Yeah.
are not.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's worth
the
noting
push.
about the Blazers too. This could have wind up happening at a really great time for them because they're in a playoff hunt right now, and I'm sure they would love to not be in that 7 through 10 play-in series. I think they're like a game and a half or 2 games back from the Lakers, and they're playing the Lakers tomorrow.
I
in
think
Portland.
it came down because Damian Lillard said in a tweet, "Are we really going to be the only franchise on the planet not to have any fans watch our games?" But ironically, they're not. The only ones will be Oklahoma City Thunder because they are only allowing, and they've only just started allowing, friends and family to come in. So they're doing a limited number of tickets for friends and family, and that is it.
Do you know what? Do you know what the deal is in Oklahoma City? Is it through the city? Is it through the state? Do you know why?
It was announced by the team at the beginning of the year, so I doubt the state of Oklahoma is restricting. And now that's a stereotypical response about the state of Oklahoma, but I can't imagine that the state of Oklahoma is telling them they can't have anybody in their stadiums. That's just a guess, a generalize.
I would think that's a good guess. Yeah.
Yeah. The other side of the Oklahoma City Thunder is that they also just found out that they no longer have a naming rights partner.
Really? Chesapeake Bay?
Chesapeake Bay Energy is they went through a bankruptcy last year. They restructured, came out of bankruptcy, and under the new agreement are canceling and have canceled their naming rights partnership with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So they are in full partnership exploration mode, I would imagine, right now, talking to a lot of folks.
Well, why aren't they talking to you to be talking to other folks? I mean, you'd get it done in 10 minutes.
I would. The sports marketer would knock that out in a heartbeat, but that's not what this podcast is about. And it was I will say this, it was the kindest mutual breakup letter I've ever read between Chesapeake and the Thunder. Both nothing but complimentary statements about one another. And I think that Chesapeake will remain a partner of the team in some fashion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because they're not going anywhere. That's the power. That's the energy company. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. So I don't think it would be good to completely abandon. All right. So yeah, Chris, your teams, man, Blackhawks and Bulls, you can go to a game now. One game. You went to a Cubs game this week.
I went to Wrigley Field last night.
And that
How was
didn't
that
get brought up
experience?
with, hey, what happened this week, for crying out loud?
He said nothing.
Nothing. You went to a live sporting event. How was it?
Oh, yeah, that actually was kind of a big deal.
How is it? How was it?
It was both normal and completely abnormal at the same time. I can't think of a better way to describe it. I mean, it felt then again, being a Cubs fan for 50 years now, it's I've spent plenty of games where 10,000 people in the seats was actually a big crowd,
and
so
this team is playing like a 10,000.
and this team doesn't even deserve to have 10,000 people.
No,
No, they
they
just
swept
swept
They
the
did.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
But the energy,
Which,
in
by the
place
way,
was-
makes the Cardinals record better than the Dodgers record. I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, the Dodgers
I mean,
have not been playing well, so I don't know how much.
right. Well, as evidenced by
They're losing to the Cubs.
losing all these games to the Cubs. the anemic offense of the Cubs. But no, I mean the energy and the vibe in the place was good. I mean, it didn't feel that term again, half-assed, but it was a pretty good experience. I mean, you have all the seats around you and your pod, all of those around you are zip tied closed. And so, everybody's spread around, and you just the mask keeps coming up and down. And
So even outside, you have the mask on. Once you're in the stadium, you have to wear the mask.
they ask you to continue to wear it unless you're drinking or eating.
Yeah.
And
And it's cold enough here that you can do that. Right now, it's 54 degrees outside. So,
it was chilly last night.
yeah, I'd keep the mask up just to stay warm.
Yeah. We you can take it down when you're eating or drinking. Well, we did plenty of drinking. We had we got scolded at one point of, you got to put your masks on. It's like, well, we're drinking, but and is what happens is what I expected to happen. You get a bunch of people knocking down a bunch of old styles. You get more and more lax of just kind of not intentionally, but just not even realizing if you don't have the thing pulled up when you're walking down through the concourse. And, in a way it was nice that, I mean, I guess it was good as a gradual kind of a transition back, but
So how was it? Have we gotten to there? Was it good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very, very meandering.
He's trying to paint a picture,
He
Myers.
is, man. He's painting it in by very slowly. It's
Well,
impressive.
what you need to do is you need to put the clock up on the screen then. So
I'm
you know
looking
how
at it.
much
It's
time I
really
got.
scaring me. No,
Okay. The point is, it was a good transition because bathroom lines were not bad to non-existent. Food lines were not bad to non-existent. And it's training people to use like the MLB ballpark app to order ahead or even have food delivered in some spots. And so, you had the organ music and the PA announcer and seventh inning stretch and all those kinds of things. And so it was
It's
nice
just good to be able to get back out there. And
well,
do
that's
some of
it. I mean, I saw
I
a couple
will.
of friends that I haven't seen, truly, there's no way I've seen them in a year plus. So
That's probably the best part of being able to get back to these things. It's just getting around other people and being around other people. I get a high from it. Just when I see somebody in the street without a mask and I talk to them for like 5 seconds in passing, I'm like, God, I miss that. I miss it. I do. I'll tell you what I won't
funny. Like
miss,
the other
though.
thing was there was, there was a guy a couple rows in front of us, a younger guy that was just in a Bryant jersey. And I mean, he was into it. He was heckling the ump. He was heckling the Dodgers players up at bat. He was trying, the guy that turns around is like, come on, get up. It was like old times. And then there was a lot of Dodgers fans there because right now they travel well because they're a much better team. But it was fun. It was
And
good
they
to,
can
like
leave
you said, good to
California
be back.
and do more things. I will miss, though, you mentioned not having lines. I will miss the one thing that I will miss from the pandemic living in the city of Chicago was that you could get anywhere very quickly because there was no traffic, and those days are done. Now there's traffic again. But I'll take the traffic with the health. But it was interesting to have an abandoned city. It was very post-apocalyptic.
Well, what was
the pandemic?
the one of the guys that joined us was actually working downtown yesterday, a guy in finance, and he jumped an Uber to come up Lakeshore, and they thought, well, we'll shoot up Lakeshore Drive. Well, he was like half an hour late because Lakeshore was packed.
It's
between
Lakeshore again.
Baseball crowd and rush hour and Irving Park Road having closed down to one lane at exit. So it was a mess, just like the old times.
Hey, we're back. Hey, we're coming back. This is a good thing. Speaking of coming back or coming in early, I don't know if you guys heard the news this week, but Amazon, and this was already announced, that Amazon would be taking over Thursday Night Football, which is a big deal. But they are officially doing that 1 year before they said they were going to do that. I guess Fox was very willing to get out of this. I heard a piece from our friend Abe Madkower over at Sports Business Journal talking about how, it reminds me of back when CBS let the NFL go, but the networks were unable to generate enough ad revenue from Thursday Night Football to care enough about it to fight to bid against Amazon when they were trying to win this. And that's another story, but it's a really, really cool story that Neil Pilson, who was the head of CBS Sports at the time when CBS let football go, tells this story, and it's so absolutely true. But it'll be interesting to see if that hurts any of the networks. Fox still has NFL on Sunday, which is its flagship without question. ESPN still has what they have. NBC or CBS, who's carrying the AFC now? Is that CBS is carrying the AFC
CBS.
now. They still have their flagship stuff, so I don't think it's going to kill any of those guys. But Amazon is coming in, and I think it's going to be interesting to see a completely different provider coming in and broadcasting a game. And I'm hearing something about you're going to be able to watch it on your local channels still. I don't fully understand all that.
No, that's just like the NFL does with like Monday Night Football games. It's the two home markets of the competing teams. They always get when it's on cable or pay, whatever, that it's aired on over the air TV in those markets. In the
On what channel?
I think it's
Right. That's where my head went of like, well, what channel would
But that
carry?
only-
You
that
put it
only
on
is gonna
Fox,
affect-
CBS, ABC.
That's only going to affect 2 markets for every week, right? So that's not
Right.
really pretty much everybody's going to have to go to Amazon now to see Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, 30 out
That-
of 32 are. I was just curious, just from a personal standpoint, how that works when it plays in Chicago.
right. Well,
what channel
when
that's
it was
that gonna be?
ESPN,
It was
the
ABC,
ESPN games.
that
It makes
made
sense that
sense.
it's on ABC.
That's right. So
I
I
had
don't know
not-
what
had not
Amazon's
thought of
partner
that.
channel is. Yeah, that's what I'm just curious what Amazon's
I just
partner
don't understand, frankly, that like you said that the numbers aren't there for the networks that they avoided this. Like, I mean, Fox walking away from NFL games a year early is like
you don't see
it's
that.
like the
You know,
plague.
it's crazy. So here's the interesting thing to me, and so Fox created its network through the NFL.
Mhm.
Fox really landed itself on the map because it bought the rights to the NFC football. It used to be CBS was NFC, NBC was AFC when I was a kid. And Fox bought the rights. When the rights were up for CBS, they outbid and they won NFC football. Well, then during the broadcast, they promoted Married with Children, The Simpsons. Like they used football
Absolutely.
promote their shows, and it put their shows on the map. Married with Children was number 1. It's crazy to go back and look. Numbers for Married with Children was off the charts from rating standpoint. So they built, and so the argument was always, okay, yeah, you're not making them from what you're spending for the broadcast. You're not making it back in ad revenue, but you're making it back in getting viewers coming to all your other stuff. And cumulatively, you're making well more than what you're paying for these rights, which is why when the rights finally came back up, CBS outbid NBC to get the AFC rights back because they're like, we've made a terrible mistake. They were Job from Arrested Development. I've made a terrible mistake.
I've made a huge mistake.
I've made a huge mistake. So they came back in and now they are where they are. So it's interesting when I hear a network or anyone say we're not getting our ad revenue back, then there has to be something else behind it that they still have. Like Fox doesn't need it. CBS doesn't need it because they're promoting their lineups on Sunday.
Right. Well, and
NBC
the
says
thing
they
is
don't
on
need it. I don't know why they don't.
Sunday afternoon, you're not competing with Fox has got a prime time lineup on Thursday nights that they want to keep consistent. And it's a lot cheaper to program and develop and air those shows, versus the NFL numbers. So that's
It is
why.
the first
still
time ever, though, that something from the NFL was available and didn't have a bidding war. It's the first time in a long time that there wasn't multiple suitors trying to outbid one another for a property.
No.
Not to
It
say
was
none of
like
the others wouldn't have taken it for less than 1.2 billion annually. Somebody else may have been willing to pay 800 million, but not at the prices. So it was interesting, and it will be interesting. I'm actually curious to see what it'll be like, and it's one game a week. It's not that big of a deal.
I'm curious to see how many people actually tune in or how it affects, the sports bars that maybe they don't have smart TVs at them and, things like that, where it's just going to maybe it changes the landscape a bit. But I think most consumers, are certainly ready for that.
I did watch a few Cardinals games on Amazon this year through my television. I think it was on Amazon. It was through my television. It was clearly streamed, and it wasn't through any app. I don't actually, now that I say it, I believe it was Amazon, but I'm not 100% sure.
Who's their crew? Do we know who the color crew and the commentators are?
No, not completely, but you have Andrea Kramer and Hannah Storm have been calling because Amazon was carrying anyway, 7 of the 17 weeks or something, and then
so that's why I was able to watch it on Amazon. Okay,
CBS and Fox and NBC all have divvied it up over the last 10 years or so, and that's, to me, is actually not the broadcast crew is one thing, but the production crew is, I believe it was Fox and their football crews were the ones that produced the entire season. Okay. And now they're not going to have that. Amazon doesn't have that. They'll have to build that stuff out themselves. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of staff.
The other thing too is, it just as a comparative, when CBS didn't renew that deal back whenever, I think Fox bought that for, it was in the hundreds of millions, right? Maybe it was 430 million or something like that, sticks in my head, but I don't know if that's correct. But it was in the hundreds of millions leading into that. And that was for multiple games, Sunday, prime football viewing, every market, every team. This is 1.2 billion per year, 3 times as much for one prime time weeknight. Just to look at the value of this moving forward. And I do believe, I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. Broadcasters are aware that there's only a few appointment television things left in the world. And sports is one of those things. People don't watch.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially the NFL. Even in a couple of down years, you look at the numbers, and it's, I get all of those releases from the NFL, and just the other day, the Amazon release, and I should know these numbers, but I don't off the top of my head, but it's like, of the top 100 broadcasts this year, it's 85 of them, something like that.
Yeah, but
NFL games.
That's very true with the NFL, but you look across all sports television deals, they're going up and up and up. College basketball, college funding, the college networks, baseball's rights, everybody's rights, because sports in general, NFL being the king, no question, but sports in general is the only appointment television left almost.
Right.
Until you have a Game of Thrones. I mean, when a Game of Thrones or something is doing its thing, it has pseudo appointment television, but in most cases, you're willing to record and watch later, or just stream it when you want to watch it, or binge a season or whatever. Right. You can't binge the 2021 NFL season.
Well, and the thing is, no, you can't. And the thing is too, with the binging, it's on your schedule, but it's also either you're getting it through a service, you're getting it without the ads, or you're flying through the ads, almost all that stuff too. And so now,
unless you're watching Hulu, which is the most painful thing on the planet, when you're watching Hulu, and I have the paid version of Hulu, and I'll have 540 seconds.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, that's another mistake. They should say 4 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever, because 540 seconds, when I see that number, I'm like, I could build a house in 500. I feel like I could build my house in 540 seconds, but those are so long and painful.
Yeah, there's another upgraded version of Hulu that you're not using, because I have that one and I don't watch commercials.
Evidently, for all
I used to have,
I don't know. We're gonna have. We'll talk about this.
We'll take this offline.
We'll take this offline. Speaking of taking this offline,
here's the other thing that we don't have to talk anymore about right now. Dive into, but it's like, look at what's going on. Not just, I mean, the Amazon thing with the NFL, but look at this. Where now. If you're a soccer fan, you got like EPL is on NBC or Peacock, or it's going to move off NBC Sports and Peacock, and then you've got UEFA, and you've got Champions League, and you got all these different. You're any kind of a soccer follower, if you're following more than one team or league, you got to have that package from Peacock.
Dude, I've already
Paramount
said
Plus,
that this whole going wireless thing has gone haywire. I pay more in combined individual wireless services than I did when I had cable that I needed to get rid of so I could choose my channel and save all this money.
Right.
It's gotten to the point. I'm like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, Peacock. I don't know. I'm leaving multiple out that I'm not. HBO Plus, Verizon Network, now Apple Plus, the Disney Channel. Like, if you want all the stuff that would normally just be on cable, you got to have 6 or 7 of these. Yeah. And then if you're like me, I'm the idiot that signs up for the trial
and then forgets.
And then I look at my bank statement 4 months later, and I'm a full subscriber to Fubo.
I don't know if you're the idiot. I think that's might be a little bit part of the.
It's part of the plan.
Part of the business plan.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it absolutely is.
Man, do I spend a lot of money? It's no longer choose your own.
Right. Well, and it's also like Hulu and YouTube TV and those guys. It was like,
YouTube TV.
I can get that
for
one. Right.
Yeah.
And, but you're like, I can get it for
Sling.
$19.99 a month. That's, oh my God, what a savings over Comcast. And here we are now 2 years later. And
you got 9 subscriptions for $180.
$74.99 a month for YouTube.
Well, I
TV.
think this is a good transition into the next topic, which part of what we're seeing in the streaming world is there's going to be a ton of these players, and then they're going to start buying each other. Disney, you've already seen it with Disney. There's now a Disney, Hulu, ESPN Plus bundle for $12.99 a month. What we're now seeing in the world of sports gaming, Myers, please continue with the topic because
interesting.
There's a lot of stuff happening, and I kind of you want to talk about one acquisition in particular, but I want to kind of take it.
I like it all. There was one acquisition that we should mention that happened this week. Better Collective, which is like a content and betting gambling tools site, and they've got a network of sites, purchased Action Network for $240 million, which is very nice for Darren Ravel and Peter Turner and all
very nice.
It's pretty good for a company that is, I think, had 2020 revenues of $15 million.
15 million, yeah.
So not too bad.
I would say that in the world of sports gaming, the multipliers are high.
Apparently, it's 16x.
Yeah, and that's not EBITDA,
sexy, right?
That's top line. I think that 15 million was top line revenue. That's not even EBITDA, so it's much more. I don't know how profitable they were at 15 million. I don't know.
I don't think they're profitable at that.
Yeah, so it's a very high multiple, and good for them, and good for Better Collective too. And I think, Josh, to your point, it's what you're now seeing. I think they're the 5th and final of the big guys. They all now have a media partner, whether it's FanDuel, which their partnership with The Ringer, I think, was their most recent one. DraftKings, they work with the Dan Le Batard show.
Vision. DraftKings bought Vision via Vegas Sports and Information Network.
Yep.
That was a big one.
BetMGM.
There was actually BetMGM,
The Athletic,
and then someone who bought Bally's is buying up other daily fantasy sites. And
Bally's is where I watch my Cardinal games now. They took over all the Midwest. The Fox Sports Midwest is now Bally Midwest. It's crazy. And then Barstool and Penn. I mean, everybody's got media partners now. Everybody's got partners to push these things out.
Well, I want to talk about kind of like the other side of it, because there was literally an acquisition that got announced, I think, on Sportico a couple hours ago. Genius Sports, which is a big data provider for the sports gaming space. They're based out of London. They bought Steve Ballmer-backed company Second Spectrum for $200 million. Genius Sports has been kind of on like a race to acquire faster, more reliable proprietary data feeds. They're the proprietary data provider for the NFL partner, I should say. They have been for quite some time. So part of what this like Second Spectrum acquisition is going to be able to do, they've worked with groups like ESPN and the Clippers to provide some augmented reality viewing experiences. So they're kind of combining the video and data and being able to convert video into data. It's all very heady stuff, but this is kind of more of the tech side that supports a lot of the industry. But now you see the tech side combining with fan engagement technologies to really, I mean, I think what we're going to see is the data, fan engagement, daily fantasy sites, mobile sports betting. You're going to have these, 4 or 5 conglomerates like the Caesars, MGM, DraftKings of the world, Penn International. So yeah, I think it's super interesting, all of the different mergers and acquisitions that we're seeing in this space that we've been seeing, and we're going to continue to.
A lot of money in that space right now, gentlemen. A lot of money.
Yes, we should have our good friend Steve Pastorini on here to talk, because he'd be able to talk some sense into everybody about what's going on.
We should, and we will. Speaking about talking some sense into some people, evidently golf didn't learn from soccer.
Wait. Who typed this one up?
I don't know. Super Liage. It's French.
Oh,
it's a Super Liage.
Oh yeah. Oike vault.
Look at him furiously.
What?
Oh, hey!
Michael Myers is one of the most talented producer, directors, hosts, salesman. Like he does it all. I love it.
He does all of it very poorly, but he does it all. Doesn't matter.
And he's self-aware.
Very self-aware. By the way, I didn't want to say anything, but my doctor had a lot of complimentary things. He said it was my blood. I'm not diabetic.
Okay, so
Tested my blood. Nope. Tested my blood sugar.
Do you remember on episode 1 where people got mad at me for trying to answer a question that was directly asked, and meanwhile Myers is giving us his whole medical history right now?
Right. 2, and I was uncomfortable with the word perfect physique, but it was his words. It were his words, not mine. His words, not mine.
I was uncomfortable with the words ripped abs. I thought he was supposed to be a little bit more professional.
His words. He's a medical professional. I can only quote him. All right. Anyway,
he said those things are like diamonds. I was really uncomfortable.
Okay, so in the world of golf, a new Super League has, I'd say, emerged, but it's been lurking in the shadows for 7 years. But I would say that it has more traction right now than the Soccer Super League, which has none. Yeah. Our boy Phil Mickelson was pretty, I don't know if the word apoplectic. He was kind in his description of what was happening, whereas many of the other golfers are dead set against it and outwardly dead set against it. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to, I don't doubt that this happens. I give a decent chance that this actually gets through, because it's not the same as soccer. And I don't think that throngs of PGA viewers are going to stop watching Jordan Spieth if Jordan Spieth is playing against other great players in a Super League. They're not going to boycott the next PGA event because the PGA is not doing it. I don't think they'll boycott whatever that competition is. I actually think this is going to happen. If I had to guess, I think this is probably going to happen in some fashion. Now, they've been trying. That's all making the assumption that these people that are creating this and running this, it's a Saudi Arabian-backed league. It's assuming that they know what the hell they're doing as far as running a league, and I don't know that. I have absolutely no concept whether or not they can pull this off. But if they're competent at all, I think this is the one that could get done. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, you're all independent contractors. Right. So, that's why it's so completely different from the soccer.
But they still have fan bases. They're still Phil Mickelson fans and whatever, but it's just not the same thing.
Well, no, but that's what the draw is. The majors and stuff like that. It's all the big names, and so if they got the vast majority of them, people are going to watch that, and they're not going to boycott, picket,
Yeah.
take.
I don't know that guys want to do it, but I don't think they're going to be able to say no to it at some point. If they're really offering 30 million guaranteed per year to some of these guys, I mean, they offered Phil, did I see 100 million to do this?
Phil seems like he would be open to that.
Yeah, Phil's near the end of his career. Phil's probably
Right.
like, I could do this. 100 mil?
Yeah.
I could do that for 100 mil. If
I
you're
could do
in
it.
third year
I could do
now
it for
in
100 mil
PGA,
if you don't mind
I would
watching
do
really
it.
bad golf. It's
I
not
don't.
quite the same.
I don't
But-
mind watching. Golf is relaxing no matter how bad it is.
I mean, I would give some of my viewers some of that 100 million if they were to give me that 100 million and people would watch it.
You'd
Yeah,
share.
everybody gets the.
Absolutely. You'd even play left-handed, just like Phil. And you're not even left-handed.
I would try a lot for
I'm
$100
thinking
million.
your golf game doesn't look that different left-handed than it does.
No,
right.
I'd imagine it might even help him.
Right.
In some ways. He focuses more. But I did find it interesting, and the money is ridiculous. And I don't know.
It's easier to convince one person, especially when that one person is going to be taking the lion's share home of that bonus.
The lion's share being all of it. Yeah.
Right. And the whole fan dynamic in golf is totally different. It's a player driven sport. I mean, literally there's individual players,
Yeah.
but it's
Are you
also-
rooting for this Super League? Would you like to see it happen, or would you rather not?
It depends what it meant for the rest of golf. Like I saw some that, if that meant these golfers not playing in majors and the Ryder Cup, if they traded out the Ryder Cup to do this, I would be okay with it. But if it was like, you're not going to see Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth and Brooks
Any
Koepka
of
and
the
Dustin
big tournaments,
Johnson in any of the big tournaments. I mean, I like what they've done with the FedEx Cup over the last few years. It's kind of made it more exciting, given that like playoff feeling in golf. But it'd be hard to say. I mean, I would absolutely, if they got 10, 15, 20 of the top players in the world, people are going to watch.
Well, they do it
it's-
now.
Right. It would just suck.
Tiger plays Phil in a head-to-head match.
Right.
That's
yeah.
might as well be a super independent Super League match, right?
But that doesn't take away, like, they can still play in the middle.
Right.
Tiger, obviously, he's dealt with
Right.
his own stuff, but
it's certainly
if they
going to
took
affect
away-
a lot of things if this happens. And we have a lot of people that work for different PGA events with the PGA that it would not be a good thing. And I'm not rooting for that at all. Not rooting
Right.
for that at all. Because it would. I think it would affect the PGA. I don't think it would kill the PGA, but you would lose a substantial amount of talent. You'd also lose substantial amount of prize money, I would imagine.
right.
I think it would affect a lot of different things. So it would just become less lucrative.
Well, and that's
business.
where my point would be. That's where I think you'd see you talk about. Well, it's not really backlash, but to Josh's point, that's where the backlash would be. If not the PGA Tour, it's the Masters, the majors, and if it means you now can't play, those guys aren't playing because it's truly competing, and you're now banned or something like they talked about that. If you join this other circuit, you can't play PGA Tour events. Well, that would be fans aren't going to want that, because you do want those events. That's the game, and
Yeah.
the tour is its own is a separate, lesser being. Frankly, I think that you see it though, like the match play stuff. What happens every year? They used to put more hype into it, I think, and the reason they don't is because it ends up being lesser known, lower ranked guys that grind their way through and end up winning the thing, and nobody watches because it's nobody knows this guy. And that stinks for golf, and this would avoid that. The Super League would avoid that, because it's like everybody in it. But then I don't think it'll come off, because I think
You're betting against it. Okay.
yeah.
Look, I think at this point it was early enough that who knows. I don't think it's going to be good for the game if it happens,
Yeah.
but I don't bet against it happening. And the chips, I think, will fall where they fall. I hope that I'm wrong, because I don't want it. I don't want Saudi Arabian backed league being the largest.
Well, it depends on
golf.
what you mean by happen, because I think something it will be attempted.
Well, exhibitions, sure.
Right,
I'm fine
that's
with exhibitions.
but that's
and all
where I
sorts of
see it
things.
basically starting and ending. Is it's going to be more of an exhibition thing,
I hope you're
and
right.
they'll make a shit ton of money. Everybody
That's
involved.
certainly
will,
not their
'cause
plan. Right now, their plan is not to have an exhibition set up.
Right.
They would consider that a failure as of right now. I would be very happy if that's the way it ended, but I mean,
Right.
I at this point right now, I think it's driven by it'll be driven by two things. Right now, it's driven by the players, but the players are driven by fans, and we'll see. Who knows? Maybe the U.S. comes with the same kind of backlash as they did overseas. I don't see it, but
I think there are some similarities between the games of soccer and football and golf, in that there is a certain level of sanctity that's part of the game and traditions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fan relationship between European football clubs and golfers and their fan, like maybe Tiger, could go do anything and his fans would follow him. But he's transcendent. It's not a good example to use. So yeah, I think there are some similarities, and those majors are really what I'm talking about when you're talking about the sanctity of the game of golf. Those majors, like we don't want to see those get ruined, and obviously the PGA as a whole, but the majors are what's going to kind of pull at fans' heartstrings the most if they're not going to be able to see the top
I think
players.
what the moral of the story is that we need somebody to come in and really get this straightened out. So I think it's Mark Emmert. I think the NCAA needs to step in.
Mr. Emmert, I just want to send my sincerest apologies for Michael Mears. I don't even know him. Just a guest.
You don't want to get me started on Mark Emmert. I just want to say that right now. You don't want to get me started on
Maybe I do. Good for a good episode.
I'll just bring up 1989 Illinois basketball, 1989, 90, 91 Illinois basketball, and his college roommate. Was he a college roommate with Bruce Pearl? Is that right? Mark Emmert was college roommates with the assistant coach from Iowa. That I don't know. I think you might want to look into that.
All right.
Am I just breaking old?
You're breaking news
on a live podcast.
We're running out of time, timekeeper.
We're running out of time.
We got a bunch of other topics that I can't wait to get to.
No, we only have one other topic. We're going to end on a high note. We only have one other topic. What are you talking about? I eliminated all that other junk. You guys said it was way too many topics. So I said, okay, those are done. So we have one more topic, and we're going to talk about, well, what do you want to talk about? You look like you have a topic you want to cover. What topic do you want to talk about?
I thought I've got.
I don't care what you thought. What topic do you want to talk about?
No, these are good topics. Would you let me talk, please?
No.
Fight.
Pick one.
Gone.
Oh, we'll do pools next time.
Kerfuffle. Rangers caps kerfuffle.
That's in there. That's coming. That's the one we're doing.
Oh, I thought that you were saying they're going to end on a high note. I thought we were going to talk Drew
Robinson.
Robinson.
Is the high note. No, that's no. We'll talk Drew. Drew's got a spot on here. Albert Pujols has a spot on here as well. But for today, we're going to talk about the Rangers Capitals series. A lot of things happening in New York right now around that series. While it's just for the record, I don't know if you know the history of this, but on one hand, you have Tom Wilson. Is that his name? Tom Wilson? Is that my guy? My goon?
My guy.
My
I hope
guy.
He's not your guy.
Not my guy. I can't show the clip because last time I showed a clip, YouTube then didn't allow us to have our podcast up. So I won't be able to show a clip. But if you haven't seen this, I'll do my best to describe. It was at the beginning, a normal little dust up by the goal. Tom Wilson, who is a known, probably the most established fighter in the NHL right now.
He's an enforcer.
Yeah. Dropped to his knee and took a really cheap shot, full punch to a guy's face who was laying sort of on his side next to the goal, to which a player took exception. And came at him, and then it became like a 7 or 8 person thing. And Tom Wilson starts punching another guy who is down, to which another player jumps on Tom Wilson's back, who is probably 70 pounds lighter. He easily flips around, hits this kid a couple of square times. Kid drops on his face. He picks him up and slams him back into the ice on his face. I don't know if you've seen this video.
I gotta watch this video.
It's a little disturbing.
A little,
yeah. To the point where something happened I've never seen, where after the NHL decided what the punishment was going to be, the Rangers actually released a statement.
Jimmy Dolan released a statement
admonishing the NHL, saying how embarrassing it was. I'm just paraphrasing. It was a long statement, but essentially saying, if you're not going to take care of this, first of all, this is embarrassing.
Right.
You should be ashamed of yourself. But so if you fast forward,
and they called for George Peros, the head of player safety.
Oh yeah,
they called for him to be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, "Whoever's in charge of this, he needs to be removed of his responsibilities."
Yeah.
So then, fast forward to last night with entertaining, a lot of storylines happening at once. One, in between that happening and last night's game, the GM and the president of the New York Rangers are fired. So John Davidson, the GM and the president, both gone.
Yeah.
Which caught everybody by surprise. Then last night's game has two things happening. One of my favorite players of all time, TJ Oshie, his father, Coach Oshie, passed away a couple days ago. And so last night, the Caps wore a patch honoring Coach Oshie, and it was really, really kind of a cool thing. Now, as that's the backstory to the Caps side. On the flip side, as the puck is dropped, 3 different pairings pair off to fight, because that's
why it would have been so awesome to show this video.
It would have been so great to show this video.
1 second in, all 3 guys on the front line.
Yeah, 6 guys going at it.
Throw
Amazing.
the gloves out in a.
Maybe we should just show it and copyrights be damned. But
people can't see this beauty.
I know. Fight. That ends within the next 2 minutes. Another fight off a face-off. Within another. It might be as soon as they put those guys in the box, drop the puck, another fight. I think there were a total of 6 fights in the first 4 minutes of the game.
6 fights, 72 penalty minutes in the first 4 minutes and 14 seconds.
To the point where the announcer's like, I'm not sure we're going to have enough players to play a game. To see the
clip that they go to they show the guys in the penalty box. And
there's 6 guys sitting on top of each other.
6 guys in there.
Yeah, they're actually sitting on the sides of the penalty box, both of these guys.
It's like a big camp. They're hanging on the campfire. It was hilarious.
Kumbaya moment. But yeah, so crazy beginning to the game. Game proceeds, and here's the cool part to all this, because now that stuff is sort of taking care of itself, and we'll see where that goes. But for the record, I also wanted to add in here: this only happens. We only got to witness this beauty because of the way the NHL scheduled. Everything's podded this year, POD, right. Pod. So you're playing one team 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row. Normally you'd have that big dust up, and then Tom Wilson's playing somebody else next week. But right back against New York, in New York 2 nights later, it's kind of a beautiful thing. And I kind of hope the NHL adopts a little bit of this moving forward. But on the flip side, you have TJ Oshie, great guy.
American hero.
American hero.
Scored some big goals for us in the Olympics. I will say that.
But yes, thank you.
Were you sitting down? Were you sitting down while listening to the national
anthem? And I had my hat on. How disrespectful! I was kneeling.
Jeez.
I was just trying to confuse everybody. I kneeled while I played the national anthem. I showed respect and disrespect.
Now we're going viral.
No, but TJ Oshie scores 2 power play goals in the second period and gets the hat trick in the empty netter, which was very cool. Very cool to see. Cool reaction. On another note, David Backes played his final game in the NHL last night. This is a personal thing. Big St. Louis Blues for a long, long, long time, as was TJ Oshie with David Perron, kind of came in together. I think Backes was first. Perron definitely came 1 year later. I don't remember if Oshie was the same or not, but it was pretty cool. They did a really cool thing for him and the fans. I only wish there were more fans in the stands for some of these things. That's my only. I wish there was 22,000 people in the stands to applaud David Backes, who hadn't played the last few games and dressed for the game in St. Louis to play his final game in front of the St. Louis fans, which was cool. So,
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
It was
but cool. Here's the thing with this that we didn't talk about yet was so the uproar over this whole thing with the NHL was and the Rangers was the fury was that the penalty was only $5,000 of the fine to Wilson, right?
Fine, right?
You're like, okay, that's nothing. What the hell is that? I would be pissed too. But the thing is, that's what everybody negotiated into the CBA. That is the maximum amount of money somebody can be fined for that. The
Well,
maximum.
obviously the max fine for the teams are a little different because the Rangers got fined
$250,000 today, $250,000. Oh yeah,
For
you should
fighting
fine
back.
them.
for
Yeah.
fighting back.
Right?
Is that right? They
Yes.
got fined $250,000 for the release that they put out.
Yes.
Yes.
For
the release.
disrespecting the league and its officials.
You know what? If I'm a Rangers fan, I'm like, I'll buy an extra ticket next year. Do it again.
Yeah.
Don't.
Oh, and the other thing
they-
that's fun
Rangers
that
fan
we didn't
appreciated that message. I'm
that
sure.
we didn't go deeper on too is that Chris Drury is the guy that gets promoted from assistant GM, the guy who won the Little League World Series, and was that hero as a kid, ends up going on and having this career in the Team USA and in the NHL for a long time, and now he's the GM of the Rangers. I mean, that's a cool story too.
Very cool story. If only we had more time, we should have talked less about hospitals.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, as always, I'm very grateful that you were able to join us this week on Uniform Exchange. And we should all exchange uniforms now. We'll see what we're called next week. Oh, look at that. What a physique. That's where perfect. What was the phrase that he told me?
Like diamonds.
Moobs.
Moves. That's yes, perfectly. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks.
But I appreciate your time, guys. As always, I'm very grateful that you were able to join us, and I will see you both again in 1 week.